On today's show, NVIDIA 3D Vision in triple screen, and our interview with Joe Grover of NVIDIA.
Welcome to Inside Sim Racing. I'm Jessica Lopez.
And I'm Sean Cole.
And as you notice, we're wearing these cool 3D glasses in my favorite color, black and green.
Yeah, they're kind of sporty, huh?
Yeah, and we got these 3D monitors right behind us, compliments of NVIDIA, which maybe to you guys might be looking a little blurred vision.
Yeah, it's not our camera, it's just double vision.
But it's very cool, and actually, Sean first saw this technology when he interviewed Townsend Bell over at CXC.
Yeah, it was a huge privilege getting to interview Townsend and getting to meet him. On a side note, though, we got to play with 3D for a few hours and just had a great time.
And Joe Grover, the QA engineer over at NVIDIA, saw that interview and sent an email to Sean and invited him and Darren up to San Jose to check out their latest technology.
Yeah, I didn't even know I was inviting us when I finished the interview, but I had mentioned wanting to try it for real, more long-term, and that's what got Joe to send that email.
Monitor while he was racing, so I imagine that had a different effect.
That was insane. I actually stayed for a couple hours later just driving it myself, and it was one of the most incredible things. We've got to get him on the show. And so in case you saw the blurry vision, that was actually 3D, and that's why he was wearing those. Yeah, it didn't take much of an invite. We were there.
All right, so when you guys went out there, like I said, you checked out their latest 3D technology, which is known as the NVIDIA 3D Vision. And it's a combination of graphics processor units, software, certified projectors, and these special 3D glasses, which actually connect to this little
Emitter?
Yes, that's what it's called.
I think so.
That connects here. These are rechargeable by USB cable, and all these things combine together to bring you guys the best 3D technology you can find.
Yeah, now you're kind of getting ahead of the game.
I am. It's a little exciting.
It is, and we want to get to it, but we do have a top sim car that we're going to do today, sponsored by Tamiya, and it's a car from R-Factor. We haven't done any R-Factor cars for a while, from Team Endu Racers. I think I got it right. We got it wrong on the last show.
Which, by the way, we apologize for that.
They have a whole bunch of cars in this entire mod to pick from, and we're going to pick one and put it on Top Sim Cars.
All right, so here you have it, top simulation cars of all time, sponsored by Tamiya.
Welcome to Top Simulation Cars of All Time, sponsored by Tamiya. And today we have a really cool 3D car.
Yeah.
You know, we picked a car from Team Endu Racers. That's what I'm going to call them because we keep messing up the name.
We'll live with that one.
I like that. Endu Racers. And we're running the Peugeot, and then that cockpit in 3D was pretty amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's like a super cockpit. I mean, you're really in there. It's like you're in an airplane more than a race car.
So the Peugeot, famous for winning Le Mans, was a great choice from that pack. I think there's about 20 cars altogether between the SP1 and the original pack, but we chose the Peugeot. We'd actually done a while back the Epsilon Euskadi, remember that?
Yeah, they did that as well.
But that was before their whole pack, so this is definitely a different version.
Yeah, and I like this because so much attention goes to that Audi, the race-winning Audi that's won so many times, and this was Peugeot's answer to that very car.
Yep.
But going about it in a very different way with the diesel engine.
Why don't you give them some specs, speaking of which?
All right, and the specs are actually very interesting to those who follow cars. The car has 705 horsepower at 4,900 RPM, which that's very low RPM.
It's that diesel.
Yeah, it's that diesel. And here's the really remarkable number. It's 832 foot-pounds of torque, and that's at 4,000 RPM.
Man, that thing just chugs. You're just going through the gears, bah, 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 and first through third, you're getting almost sideways if you don't, pedal that throttle.
And it doesn't really tell you it's going to do something ferocious. I mean, I'm so accustomed to getting a warning sound from the RPMs shooting through the roof, and that doesn't happen here. Next thing you know, you're backward on the track.
Yeah. So it definitely takes some getting used to, but I like how these guys have modeled it. They did a great job.
And a little bit more about the car. It's the Peugeot LMP, obviously, the HDI FAP V12. It's a twin turbo, and this car actually did go on to win the 2009 24-hour Le Mans. So very, very nice and proven car at this point.
Yeah, it is. It actually, compared to the Audi, one of the other cool things and differences is that it's a closed cockpit, and the Audi was an open cockpit.
And like you said, in 3D, it's got all that depth and so much cool looking parts inside of the car. Very, very cool cockpit.
How about score time?
Okay.
All right, and here they are. First up, physics out of 20, we gave it a 17. Sounds out of 15, we gave it 11 3/4. Models out of 10, we gave it a 9. Cockpit out of 10, we gave it 9 1/4. Fun factor out of 10, we gave it an 8. Immersive out of 10, 7 3/4. Force feedback realism out of 10, we gave it an 8. Damage out of 5, we gave it 4.5. Skins out of 5, we gave it a 5. Default set out of 5, we gave it 4.5. For a grand total of 84 3/4.
Not bad at all. I mean, it's been a while since we did an R Factor car. I mean, a lot of newer sims are coming out now, so that's a pretty good score. When
You were just doing some work on the list. Did it make the list?
It made the list. It's
down there a
into
little
it.
bit.
It's down towards the bottom, but it's definitely in the top 50 right now.
And you know what? It's getting to the point where you need to be perfection. It's gonna be, you know, eventually that you're gonna have a perfect sim car to be on the list. But this one's pretty close. I mean, I'd say the only areas that it suffered was immersive. We gave it a 7 3/4. Fun factor an 8, and I think that goes back to, and then the sounds 11 3/4. But the fun factor, this was a tough car to drive.
Yes, it was.
So it wasn't the funnest car to drive, but it was well modeled. Hey, a quick lap time. I think I ran a 1:17 at Eastern Creek, one of our test beds. Where are we at here?
Eastern Creek.
Eastern Creek. So yeah, I ran a 1:17. So if you want to see if you can, and with the default setup, I did no adjustments to the setup at all. So want to go out there and run some laps against us to check it out?
I didn't fare quite as well as you did. I spent a lot of time going backward with that torque monster of a car.
We're going to put a link to get this mod right in the description of this video so you can check it out. At Virtual R was probably the best place. They have a bunch of links to get all the different packs. Or go to Team Enduro Racers site. We'll put a link to that in our description too. Great job, Team Endurance Racers, Team Enduro Racers. Can't wait to see more stuff. Can't wait to see some R Factor 2 stuff from these guys.
Absolutely, and you know that's just around the corner. And one thing to point out also, this is just one model, one car out of a really good car pack. So if you go to that website, there's a lot of cars we could have picked to put on the list today.
Free if you own R Factor. So
Yes.
it's amazing that these guys do that much work for free.
Absolutely.
Great job, Team Enduro Racers. Thanks from us and from the community for all the work you guys do.
That's what it's all about.
Yep.
All right, so I was getting a little ahead of myself earlier, kind of excited about this product here.
It's a big day.
But now it's time to get a little bit more in-depth, and you actually sat with QA engineer Joe Grover.
Right. We actually went up there. We spent a great amount of time up at Trinity Racing with Joe Grover and the guys from Trinity, and we ended up racing for, gosh, actually it was 2 days of racing just to test it all out. And I got to sit down with Joe, and I mean, this is the guy who knows everything about 3D, and sure, we could just plug it in and try it out, but I really want to know how it worked. And so who better to talk to than Joe?
All right, well, let's go ahead and pass on over to your interview with Joe Grover.
So 3D is upon us, and it's something that we haven't had enough time to really get involved with. But then I started talking to Joe Grover of NVIDIA, and you invited us up to really try it out. Joe, thanks for having us up here.
It's a pleasure to have you guys up here, son.
And
Great.
like I said, 3D is here. We've seen it at various shows. We've tried it, but there's a lot behind this technology. Tell me a little bit about NVIDIA's 3D technology.
NVIDIA's 3D technology is using something that's been around for quite a while. We made some changes to it, but it's called shutter glass technology. So one of the things that wasn't there that needed to be put in place was the 3D glasses needed to be able to work with LCD displays, and that's one of the things that we were able to do to accomplish to get these working with the 3D displays.
Okay.
So it works with 500 plus games out of the box, so you don't have to go buy new games or simulators. It just works with them because of the work that we're doing with our incredible team of developers at NVIDIA and everybody involved. We can actually go into the game and find that camera and make the left and the right eye in the video game world, and we can put that onto the screen.
Okay. You mentioned it's shutter technology. I mean, I think of 3D and I think of blue-red glasses. I mean, there are a handful of different technologies. How is it that the shutter technology actually works?
So the way the shutter technology actually works is the displays that we use are 120 hertz. In the past, displays were 60 hertz. So new development went in from the panel manufacturers to create 120 hertz displays.
Okay.
So that's vital for us, because what ends up happening is we are opening and closing the glasses 120 times per second, 60 times for the left eye, 60 times for the right eye. So in the glasses, when the left eye is open, on the screen of the display you have the left image, and vice versa for the right. So you're doing left, right, left, right, left, right, and the images are changing in sync with that. And because of the shift that you get with that we make with the camera, it actually has slightly different left and right eye, and it builds that 3D for you, so you can actually see the depth in the simulator.
Now, you had mentioned needing a particular type of display to make this work. Is there a limited amount? What type of display do we need?
Yeah, so for the LCD technology, you need the 120 hertz displays that are come out. There's several manufacturers that are doing them, Acer, Alienware, and many, many others that are putting these things out. We also work with DLP technology. So the Townsend Bell interview, actually, which was the interview that I've been watching you guys for a long time, and that was the interview that I saw. And at the end, you said, "We got to get these guys on the show." And I was like, "Oh man, I got to contact these guys." So it's been a long road since then, and things have matured. And I'm so happy to be on the show and talking about this. So yeah, so LCD displays, the DLPs. There's also 120 hertz projectors that are out there, so you can do 3D on projectors.
Wow.
You can watch Blu-ray movies with this technology. The 3D Blu-ray movies that are out, it will run those movies on your screen. We do 3D movie streaming from 3dvisionlive.com. So you can stream movies in 3D. So if you wanted to use like Fraps to capture a replay in iRacing, Fraps supports 3D capture. So you can capture that in 3D with the sound and get that onto 3dvisionlive.com, and you can share it with other 3D users, and they can stream it and they can see that in 3D.
Oh my, that's incredible.
Yeah.
You said something there very important. I think of this as just something that I just plug in and it works. But this isn't just, I mean, the game actually sends a signal. How does that actually work? I mean, they're working in unison. This isn't just happening from my computer and then just anything that outputs, but there's something behind the scenes going on there?
Yeah, so we actually, because we can develop the 3D graphics driver internally, and that piggybacks on and works with our graphics driver, and because we have that ability to develop that driver, we can do a lot of work in there. And so the functionality, the way it works is you have a USB cable that goes from the emitter. You can see one of them here on top of the displays. You have an emitter that goes and talks to the system and sends the pulses that it needs to the glasses, so that everything can sync up.
Let's focus on sim racing, and I mean, this isn't just two images side by side. There's more to it. What do you guys do to make it work? I mean, the amount of depth I'm seeing is amazing. And it you know, it's nothing like the 3D pictures I've seen before. What do you guys do to the software? How does this work?
Yeah, so if you think about real life, we got two eyeballs, and we're taking in two slightly different images. So if I'm looking at, say, for instance, a soda can, and it's up close, my left eye is seeing slightly around the left side, my right eye is seeing slightly around the right side. So what ends up happening is we triangulate that data. There's a triangle between our eyes and the object. Okay, so what we do is our brain takes in that information and triangulates that data and uses the slightly different images to process in our brain how far or how close that object is from us. And we're doing the same thing in the technology. And what we're doing, because we have control over that driver, we know where the camera is located in the simulator. So we find the camera, we shift left and make the left eye, shift right and make the right eye, and that's what we're displaying on screen. So we were talking just a second ago about the soda can, where you see slightly different around it because it's a slightly different view. You get the same identical thing in 3D with the slightly different images, and that's why when you look at 3D at the screen, you'll see where things look like they're going off and getting wider as you go. because it's that slight difference in the image. And our brain takes that data and it puts it together and says, oh, okay, I've got an object that's 3 yards out in front of me or 30 yards out in front of me. So you build that, yeah.
So, I mean, essentially in a nutshell, when I play a standard game, I've got a single camera. And now in this case, what I've done is created 2 cameras that are sort of mimicking what my real head or eyes are doing.
Yeah,
and giving me
what
2
your visual
views
system does.
and then crossing them in the middle.
And it ends up building them. Yeah, so very important that we keep the cameras parallel. But it does take those objects and it puts them together and builds them and builds that depth for you.
All right, so is that going to work with any sim racing game I try it with?
It will work with any sim racing game that you try it with at this point because of the work that I and our graphics team, the stereo graphics team, have done. Part of what I do at NVIDIA is I will go in and I will look at the games. I will rate the games. If there's issues with the simulators, I'll pass that data on to our content team who will talk to the developer so that they can fix those issues in the game so that we get the best possible experience that we can get. So NVIDIA has a 3D Vision, we call it a 3D Vision rating system. So when you launch a game, one of the first things that you'll notice when you're in 3D is there's a little green overlay, green text overlay that comes up, and it will tell you what the rating is of the game. It will tell you if there's options you need to set to get the best possible experience and that type of thing. And that all happens because behind the scenes at NVIDIA, we are playing these games, we are looking at these games, and we are profiling these games and getting the best possible setting in the drivers so that you don't have to. So you don't have to worry about it. So really, you take and you put the product into your system, you install the drivers, you get the 3D working, and the games just will work for you. And this is just a nice little indicator for you on how to make it work even better.
Right. So you mentioned a little window pops up and it gives you suggestions. Are these things that I would do to the game, or are these settings that I would make to the NVIDIA stuff?
Well, you won't have to change the driver at all. So when you install the driver and you start playing that game, it is the best possible settings that you can get for the game, and that's part of what I do at NVIDIA is making sure that happens. And so the little overlay that we're talking about with the green text that comes up, it will let you know if for instance. Say ambient occlusion will cause a rendering anomaly and we couldn't get that fixed in time or fixed with the developer. We'll suggest that you go into the game's options and we'll tell you right where to go into the options, and any game option that you can control in the game's options that they supply to you, we can either turn those off or turn those on, and we'll suggest to you how to do that.
So let's say I'm set up at home, I already have a 400 series card, it's 3D ready, I'm going to go get this 3D. Am I going to see a performance difference from what I had prior?
If you're a frame rate counter, you will see a bit of a performance difference because when you think about it, we're actually now, instead of rendering 1 frame, we're actually rendering 2 frames. That we're blitting to the screen. So you will see a bit of a performance hit, but on like a 400 series card, you run like a single display, you're fine. It's like you're gonna be tapped out probably in your frame rate on your gaming.
Right.
So yeah. So and you'll find even if you have to go in and turn like shadows down from high to medium or something like that, the experience that you receive from the 3D is so overwhelmingly good that you're going to be willing to make that change. Something that's really important to mention about the 3D as well, it's like when you think about it, normally a person would say, well, yeah, I'm getting 2 eyes, I'm getting twice the information. But what's actually happening in your visual system with your brain is when you put these 2 slightly different images together, it's instead of being ×2, it's actually ×4 because of the information that you're building in your brain and processing to get the depth. It's more than just a 1 + 1. So 1 + 1 = 4 instead of 2.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys recently released a new driver. I know things are coming along fast. It's a building technology. I mean, is it readily available to everybody, and how do I get into it?
Yeah, so I mean, as far as the drivers are concerned, you can actually get them on NVIDIA.com. We just released a new beta driver, and so what that does, why that's significant is not only the performance increase that you're getting in 3D Vision Surround, we're also combining everything together. So now, in the past, it was install the graphics driver, install the 3D driver, that type of thing. Now it's all in one package. So you just go out and get the driver and install it. and it will work for you. So and as far as getting the glasses and things like that, if you visit NVIDIA.com, you can find out where they're available. There's several e-tailers that have them, retail stores, brick and mortar. So it's readily available. You can pretty much find it anywhere.
And anyone can be doing it.
Anybody can be doing it, and they can be doing it in 3D and driving faster.
Well, Joe, this has been very insightful. Thank you very much. I hope you're ready. I'm ready to do some racing.
I'm ready to do some racing.
All right.
It's like, yeah, so pizza and racing, that's what we're looking forward to doing.
Thanks again. Thank you very much.
All right, you take care.
Open Wheeler is not just another racing seat. It's made with the input of real racing fans who know the mechanics of racing. The Open Wheeler can be used by almost anybody, from a small child to a fully grown adult. Just like the seat in a real car, Open Wheeler has a wide range of adjustable positions, just like a real car, including the angle of the seat up and back, and the pedal distance and wheel height. Open Wheeler is super light and only weighs about 50 pounds, and it's really easy to move around the house with its built-in wheels, and it folds down for easy storage.
Joe Gober actually seems like a really cool guy.
He's one of my favorites. He's a fun guy to hang out with, and like I said, we got to do all that racing. Not just Joe, but Jack at Trinity. They hooked us up so big time. All this racing. I mean, you guys probably saw on the show, Darren got to drive in that Ferrari 458 Italia. I got to drive the Back to the Future car, which I'll never forget that, that's for sure. So, and then all the racing, and then beyond that, they sent us home with 2 480 video cards, these 3 monitors that you see, all the glasses, so that we could actually not just try it there with them for a couple of days, but take it home, use our equipment, get comfortable, and really be able to feel it out and
Get more in depth with it. And also that allowed myself and Tommy to try it out.
Exactly.
I didn't drive yet with these glasses, but I did check it out, and you know, it makes everything so much more precise. You can feel the depth. You can see how far the cars are in distance in relation to you, and just looks really awesome, especially the console there.
And it does take some getting used to, so that would all get even better with time for you.
And as realistic as iRacing is, what better way to pair it up with some 3D glasses and monitors and take it that much more further.
I completely agree.
So next up, Darren and Sean are going to tell you guys how to set this up and tell you a little bit more about this product.
All right, well, welcome to our NVIDIA 3D Vision setup. And if you remember, we did a piece on the ATI Eyefinity, and then Sean did a piece on Soft TH setup. So now you've done another piece on 3D Vision setup.
Yeah, it's a similar process, but a little bit different. So there's some specific things you need to do in this process.
And it's setting it up with the triple screens and with the 3D technology. So here it is.
Setting up the NVIDIA 3D Vision is fairly easy, but there are a few things that you're going to need, as well as a few things to consider. You will need one 3D ready video card for single monitor setups, or you will need 2 identical 3D ready cards running an SLI in order to run 3 monitors. Almost any modern card will do, including the 8 and 9 series, as well as the 200, 300, 400, and 500 series. You will also need the NVIDIA 3D Vision Kit with the glasses and the emitter, and lastly, at least one 120 Hz 3D ready monitor. In our case, we will be using 3 monitors and therefore need 2 video cards to run them. The next step is to actually install the video card or cards into the case of your computer. For 2 video cards, you will need an SLI ready motherboard with 2 PCI Express slots available. You will also need a power supply large enough to power up them both, and I recommend at least 750 watts for dual card applications. Install each card carefully, and then you will also need to plug in the power cables for the video cards and the SLI bridge if running 2 cards. When plugging in the monitors, they will need to be on DVI cables. I find it works best if I plug the middle monitor into the first slot of the first card, and then either one of the side monitors into the second position. On the second card, the other side monitor should go into the second slot, leaving the one closest to the motherboard empty. Now start up Windows. Windows will immediately recognize and install your video cards. Now you're going to want to download the latest NVIDIA drivers for your card from the NVIDIA website. Install the new drivers and then restart your computer. Once your computer is restarted, you can plug in the emitter that came with the 3D glasses. Place the emitter above your monitor or somewhere near within good sight of your glasses when being worn. Windows will recognize the emitter and install its drivers. Now go to the NVIDIA control panel. Start with the 3D settings tab, then go down to the third heading, Configure SLI PhysX Surround. Now select the button for Span Displays with Surround and then click on Configure. This will bring up a Configure Display window to confirm that your displays are plugged in correctly. Hit Apply. Now you are looking at the Arrange Displays button. Hit Identify and arrange the screen so that they are in the 1, 2, 3 order. And also make sure it is set to landscape below and then hit Next. This brings up the bezel correction screen. You will now add or subtract pixels to accommodate the bezel/border of your monitors. What you are trying to do is align the road so that it looks straight regardless of your bezel. Depending on your brand, the amount of overlap and the angle will affect that number. I am at 130 pixels for the Asus monitors at 45-degree angles. Once happy, click on Next. Then click on Finish and we are now running a 3-screen wide desktop. Now go back to the NVIDIA control panel and click on the third heading, Stereoscopic 3D. Now click the button enabling Stereoscopic 3D. You can also adjust the depth setting here or at any time using the dial on the back of the emitter. I would recommend starting off with a very low depth and increasing it as your eyes adjust to the 3D. You can now click the next heading, View Compatibility with Games, and see NVIDIA's compatibility ratings for the games that you have installed. That takes care of setup. Now it's time to fire up your favorite sim and make some adjustments there. Starting with iRacing, go to the Graphics menu. You will now pick your new screen size. It will be anywhere between 5760 and 6020 by 1080 by 32. The difference in sizes is a matter of the bezel adjustments that you made earlier. Make sure you have the number of screens selected to 1, not 3, because Windows sees your desktop as 1 screen wide. You can enter the screen width with and without bezel and the distance from the screen and angle. This is how iRacing determines field of view. I also found that I didn't actually like iRacing settings and ended up changing the driving distance once in the car until I felt comfortable. On the graphics settings, you can see I have things pretty much maxed out in every category. The NVIDIA 3D will override certain settings when it comes to anti-aliasing, but you can still crank them up if you want. For iRacing, I found that when all alone or in small groups that the frame rates were very good and would lock at 60 frames a second. But in a crowd or at the start of a race, it would get a bit jumpy. I have since turned the grandstands and objects down to low and left everything else maxed out. I have been in a field of 20 cars with no problem with these settings. Unfortunately, with this resolution, iRacing has placed their driving menus slightly out of viewable range. This limits the use of the standings and relative pages while driving. For rFactor, I fired up the graphics config utility in the rFactor folder. I then selected my new resolution of 6020 by 1080 and then fired up the game. I then went to the graphics tab and maxed out everything there was to see the best that rFactor had to offer. Running a DirectX 9 on a rather robust computer, rFactor ran without a single glitch. Live for Speed automatically detected 3 monitors, and when I selected my resolution of 6020 by 1080, everything worked well. I then changed it to 1 monitor and changed the field of view and found it to be even more comfortable. In Live for Speed, I was able to run full graphics without a problem at all. Any other new games you install will involve a very similar process to set up. That's about all there is to it. Now you're running in 3D surround.
Tamiya's extensive lineup of radio-controlled vehicles provides hobbyists with the joy of running exact replicas of their favorite car, tank, or off-road vehicle. Another attraction of these vehicles is their use of high-grade materials, such as nylon resin, carbon fiber, and polycarbonate. With precise mechanical systems, the maintenance and adjustment of the various components, as well as performance upgrading with optional parts, allows for truly competitive racing. For more information about Tamiya, visit us at www.tamiyausa.com.
So now that it's all set up, it really comes down to, the impressions of it. I mean, I got a chance to try it with Townsend Bell way back when. Getting up to San Jose was really your first experience.
Yep. And my first impression was I drove it driving Richard Burns Rally. I hadn't driven Richard Burns in probably a few months, at least a few months. And actually, I don't think I'd ever driven it in triple screens either. So it was my first time with triples and in 3D. And man, I felt like I was a pro at Richard Burns. I mean, and I'm pretty good at Richard Burns. I've done a lot of it, but I don't remember this particular rally, and it was having to pull some hairpin, e-brakes, and I looked like I knew what I was doing out there. And a lot of it had to do with, kind of rambling here, a lot of it had to do with the 3D and being able to see that much more depth.
Right.
Especially in a rally stage where all you're basing it on the pace notes.
Sure.
And your co-driver and what you're seeing. And the more you can see and judge ahead, you know, the better you can be. And man, it made a big difference.
Yeah, and in Richard Burns, you have a lot of elevation change. And I think that's one of the areas that it really shows off the best features of 3D.
Definitely.
So yeah, for me, I was just as overwhelmed as you. I mean, coming into it, I had played with it the one time with Townsend Bell, but again, getting to play in triple screens on a variety of different games, and it is just amazing. And again, the bigger the area, the more impressive it is.
Yeah, and I think when we were up at Trinity Racing in San Jose, first Richard Burns, then I went to iRacing, then we went to R Factor, then we even did some MX versus ATV.
Yeah.
Remember that, standing in front of the big screen with the projector? All of us were standing there checking it out, and that was amazing. So it really just changes the way the games look. You go from a 2D environment to a 3D. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, and you mentioned Richard Burns. If you take a game like that and you play it in 3D, you'd swear you were playing a new version of the game, even though it's the same game, but it's like a complete graphic overhaul for a game like Richard Burns, for all games.
So why don't we go into the pros and cons?
Okay.
Now that we've given our first impressions.
Sounds good. I mean, for me, and you've heard it from us both already, it completely changes games. I mean, you're going to see things in a way that you've never seen them before. And
No question about that. Like I mentioned, the depth Richard Burns rally that first time. Biggest thing I noticed was the grade and the banking of corners that I had never noticed before in the 2D environment. I was like just amazed at how much there was there.
Definitely. Another thing for me, and this comes in close quarters with other cars, judging the distances. So whether it's a car in triple screens next to me or under braking, judging how quickly I'm braking compared to them, and I can kind of zone in on not only their car but the apex at the same time. For me, it just makes all of that much more easy on the brain, I guess.
Yeah, and it really brings the cockpits to life. It's funny. I think every single one of us has reached out and banged our hand on the monitor because we thought we were touching dash.
Yeah.
Every single one of us, I think, has done it because it just adds more life to the environment.
Yeah. And that touches on another one of my favorite things about it, touching the screen, which you're not supposed to do, but the screens disappear. And it's really hard for me to explain this to you, but any normal screen that I've ever sat at, I can see the piece of glass, even if you don't physically see it, but maybe it's a slight reflection, you know it's there. You put the glasses on, and the glass goes away.
You feel like you are being put into the environment, is the best way to put it.
Yes.
And it's really hard. We're trying to be as descriptive as possible here because we can't show you guys. There's no way for us to show you what it's like unless you actually come over here and check it out.
And be overwhelmed by it.
Yep.
Another thing for me is the depth and more depth. Again, if you're at a big track at a spa, or we've been at Indy lately, we're preparing for the Indy 500, and you can just see all the way down the front stretch, and it looks so impressive. It brings the environments to life more because of it.
And the last thing I'll say about the pros is that it really just helps you with your position as far as where you are in relation to other cars on the track. You can just see, triple screens helps a lot. 3D really helps you, you know exactly how close you are now. So that's one of the biggest things I think for me too.
Completely agree.
So leads us to the cons?
Yeah, I mean, we could keep going on those, but really it would be just giving you different ways of describing the same pros.
Exactly.
So on to the cons, and the biggest hurdle is going to be the price. I mean, whether you're talking a single screen setup, which is a lot less expensive, or a triple, you're looking at big money.
Yep.
And that's a big hurdle for a lot of people.
Next con, the glasses. Two things for me with the glasses. One, you got to wear glasses, which you can pretty much get over pretty quickly. I mean, that's not that big a deal. There's actually three things with the glasses for me. That, and then it's darker. When you put the glasses on, and I'm assuming it's because of the shutter technology, it just makes things a little bit dimmer. We've got things cranked up as bright as they can be, and it's not too dark to race. Definitely not saying that. We raced at night, and it's incredible at night. We tried the new Sebring iRacing night track, and it was incredible. But it's just darker. And then the other thing with the glasses is the adjustment. Your eyes really need to adjust to it. And Sean, why don't you tell them how, Sean's done most of the driving with this. I've still just starting to get used to it, or it's just, you know, tinkered with it a little bit. Sean's done some serious racing.
Well, and as I mentioned in the setup, you can adjust the depth, and that will help you acclimate. And I say acclimate because I think everybody's going to have to acclimate to this when they get it home. And that leads to a different con, which is it can make you a little bit dizzy in the beginning stages of it. If you have too much depth or any depth at all, it might just kind of make you feel a little on the nauseous side.
Have you ever messed with one of those books, those 3D books that you have to kind of look at it in an angle to see the image?
Yes.
And your eyes almost end up going cross-eyed to get to view that image. You almost get that same feeling, and I'm not saying it makes your eyes get crossed, but you have to.
It feels like
you have to focus. You have to. Your eyes need to focus on that new depth, and I think Joe was saying something about training your eye, wasn't it?
And that's worked, and that, or the acclimation. And for me, here we are almost a month later, and now I jump on, and it's like it's natural. I've increased the depth. My eyes don't feel funny. I don't get nauseous, and I can run as long as I want. So, but it did take almost a month to get to that point.
Couple other cons, if there's light behind, if you're in a very bright room like we're in right now, it's tough. You know that extra light in the room makes it tougher to see.
Yeah, with it being dark, you need every bit of light coming at you that you can, and to take away from that. The other thing also on the bright light is you can see reflections in the glasses. So if you have light coming in from behind you, that's a little disturbing, but that's just easily overcomeable.
Yeah, another thing back to the glasses too, if you wear headphones and glasses, that's going to be something you're going to have to get used to, because you're going to have those glasses and the headphones. And here's another thing. We kind of took it for granted here. We both have perfect vision.
Right.
If we wore glasses, there's a lot of people out there that wear glasses, and yeah, you can wear contact lenses to compensate, but my brother, for example, he can't wear contact lenses because of the shape of his eye. It bothers his eyes, so he has to wear his glasses. What's he going to do?
Yeah.
Is he going to wear glasses over the glasses?
Supposedly they fit, but that would definitely be real uncomfortable, especially with headphones also.
Yep.
Okay. Another thing, and this might be one of the most critical things to the actual on the driving, and this thing locks your frames. That's part of what it does. It locks your frames in order to be able to do the shutter technology. The problem with that is there's a slight flicker, and it's not a stutter. It's not like a frame hop or glitch that I'm accustomed to, but there's something, just a very hint of a glitch going on that doesn't take away from my precision, but I know some aliens who are so critical of frame rates and timing, and I think they would tell you it might even take a tenth of a second away from them.
Yeah, and I'm going to disagree with that. I think that's honestly in their head.
A myth?
Yeah. I mean, you know what? I may be wrong. I'm not an alien, and I don't honestly test to that level to figure out, hundredths of a second at road courses. I mean, that's just unbelievable. But, so back to that, the resources, you need a high-powered system to run this. You need dual cards in the 400 series range. Yeah, other lower series cards may be compatible, but your mileage is going to vary, guaranteed. So
you heard Joe talk about that. It does. It's doubling the amount of things it's sending.
I mean, if you guys have seen Avatar, think about sim racing Avatar style.
Yeah, it's much more that version, the old comic book 3D.
It's not even any. Don't even think blue red. Don't even think that. It's really cool. So I think
I only have one more con, and that's I always get a cool thing when my friends come over and watch me race. And now, unless you have a bunch of extra glasses,
which they've provided us with, which has been, thank you, NVIDIA.
Yeah, not everybody's going to buy 3 pairs just so their friends can watch or play also. So they're going to be looking at that double image, and that's a little disturbing, actually.
Yeah, it can be. So why don't we go to our final thoughts on it? I honestly haven't run it enough to say, yes, this is a must-have for sim racers. I got to tell you, it's one of the coolest things that I've done in sim racing since we've started. I think it's one of the coolest innovations. It just brought added depth to tracks that I didn't know were there, and it's already there. It's built in. We're just not realizing it because we're seeing it in a 2D environment. So Sean can really be more of a judge of it because he's driven it more. But I got to tell you, it's pretty awesome.
For me, it is one of those, not needs, but one of those things that I have that I would be so disappointed if it was taken away from me. Now that I've tasted the world of 3D, to go back to the 2D monitor would seem boring. It would seem simple. And for me, that's a big deal. But getting to there is still that financial hurdle. It's a lot of money. and not everybody as a sim racer has that kind of money to put into their hobby. But if they did, they're going to enjoy it. I mean, I can tell you.
And there's budgets ways that you can do this. I mean, we're running 3 monitors that are about $500 each. And again, we'd like to thank NVIDIA for supplying us with these monitors. But I looked on Craigslist. There's a huge list of monitors that are compatible with this technology.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are old DLPs, believe it or not.
Right.
And they're maybe big, bulky TVs, but I saw some like 55 to 80-inch TVs for under $800. I mean, and that's a lot, but we got $1,500 worth of monitors here. And actually, that was one of the other things, real quick, before we close out. And we're going to rev scale this, too, by the way. Not sure you really need 3 monitors for this technology. We were talking about that. One big monitor or LCD or DLP like that, I think that'll do the trick, because you got all that extra depth already. You know, it's you got a lot right there.
I completely agree. And the other thing is, this is still very new, so you can count on these type of monitors dropping in price rapidly, and even the video cards themselves. So this is something that today might seem expensive. Tomorrow it might be very readily available for anybody on any budget.
Rev scale.
Rev scale. I'd love to give it a 10 because of how much I love it, but I think we have to bring it back to the reality of...
I think you would give it a 10 if I was going to take it away from you.
I would, absolutely. But I think comparing it to, you know, what people spend money on, I'm going to be very comfortable giving it an 8 out of 10.
Yep, and that's we scored it separately in our heads and got together this morning and said, okay, what are we going to score it? And Sean said at 8.5. We've never scored in a half points on the rev scale, so 8 it is, and it definitely deserves it. I'd love to give it a 9 or 10, but it's that cost factor and, you know, just the darkness and getting used to it. And and again, for me, the verdict's still out. We're going to do another DIY build here, and NVIDIA had sent us a couple more cards. I'm going to build a system and put it together and give you guys my opinion, more opinion on it later. But it's definitely really cool, and if you can afford it, you should check it out.
And again, as that price drops, I mean, I'd instantly start bringing that score up. That's the only thing that really kept me low on the rev scale.
Well, and you buy this technology, and the only thing that may not, if you don't like the 3D, the only thing that's not going to be useful to you is the 3D glasses.
True.
The monitors, 120 hertz LCDs.
We didn't even mention that as a pro. I mean, but in this setup, you're talking one of the fastest monitors on Earth.
Yeah, which definitely going to enhance your experience, 2D or 3D.
Yeah, and the 480 video card we're using is a card that a lot of people might already have. So they might already be sitting on a 3D ready card.
Yep, exactly. So that's going to wrap it up for our look at NVIDIA's 3D vision technology. And like to thank Joe Grover and Jennifer Duville for really hooking us up. And you know, we got video cards from them, monitors, the trip to San Jose, and you know, we really like to thank them. Also like to thank Jack Alstad and Martin McCaffrey of Trinity Racing for all their help in showing us the 3D. They were the guys that really showed it to us first, along with Joe, and it was great hanging out with them, and like to thank them as well.
Now we race with Martin regularly.
Yep. That's going to do it. See you guys later.
That's going to wrap up this episode of Inside Sim Racing, looking at NVIDIA's 3D Vision.
Something made for the future, but sitting here today. Pretty cool.
Indeed.
Yeah, we'll have a forum thread going on 3D, so anybody who wants to learn more about it can go there, ask questions, or if you're using it, you can talk about it. Also, I've seen a great forum thread at iRacing about 3D as well, so a lot of information out there if you're interested.
Make sure you head on over to our website and register with us so that you can participate in our forums and comment on the show on YouTube. We love to hear from you guys. And I guess that's going to wrap it up, right?
Yep.
All right. Checker flag is out. And so are we. Promotional consideration provided by iRacing.com, the ultimate place to race online. The world's finest model manufacturer and leader in RC cars, trucks, and tanks. Go to TamiyahUSA.com.
Where's the e-brake? We gotta get it. You reset me?
Dude, I drove through a friggin' like some plants and stuff. That was awesome.
I would say that's what everybody needs to be doing.
That is awesome.
That's unreal, or very real.
It's a totally different game.
So this is, oh, that was cool. RSR.
This is insane.
Insane.
Where's the e-brake?
We gotta get it. So really like the enclosed cockpit with that too. Oh, this is awesome. Yeah, it's incredible. Whoa! That dirt effect too, like the haze. That's really good too.
Where's the e-brake?
We gotta get it.
So real, it looks like you got a net to the left of you.
I know, it's amazing. It's totally 3D, the net, by the way.
I'm gonna switch this into 2D while you're driving. Leave the glasses on so you can feel the difference.
Oh, come on.
Whoops, right off the track. Okay, you need the 3D.
It just went all plain and dull on me.
That was cool.
So were you getting the looks from the ladies?
No, the ladies were just like, what?
From the guys.
Yeah, the dudes were tripping out. The dudes just pulled up next to us to take pictures.
Hopefully I got that on video.
Hold it down for a second.
There we go.
Where's the e-brake?
We gotta get it.